I'm gonna show you how I do like my braided roses or my braided hair flowers, because those seem to be like the most requested thing I get asked to show people. I'm just sort of a type A obsessive compulsive perfectionist, so I spent a lot of time, I wanted to make a hair flower that was like more three-dimensional, because I've done it before with just a 3-strand braid. You can put like make it, but I wanted one that kind of had like more layers and depth to it. So I'm gonna show you guys how to do it. And it utilizes like a couple of different braiding skills. Like it's a lot of like 3 strands, fishtails, but inverted and regular, so to kind of create that depth and texture. So I'm gonna show you a smaller version of my big rose, okay? So I started, I'm gonna raise her up a little. So I generally always start mine with a traditional 3-strand braid, but I make the smallest part of it. I'll do a traditional 3-strand, but really tight, and that's usually the centermost part of my braid. So I'll take a 3-strand braid. My hands would stop shaking because I'm in front of it. Really helpful. Anna Cassidy's not helping. I'm like, yes, get me a quad Vinci mocha and let me go up on stage and braid. Chug rocket fuel and then use like. So I'll start with a really tight like 3-strand braid, and then I roll that up with a bobby pin. I don't use a lot of elastics when I do these, so that I have a little bit more control and I can move it around and take things apart later if I choose to change my mind if I don't think of placement. But I'll braid really, really tightly. And I think being able to add any little detail, like even if you do a smaller condensed version of this, if you're doing like color, like there's so much, Instagram's so inundated with so many images that every little detail you can add to a picture takes a couple minutes. And like the infinite, like Antonia's Infinio braid, like if you do that quickly, it just makes, it gives it a little bit more interest. So we'll start here, we'll do this little 3-strand, I'll stop right here. And so I'll take my bobby pin, and I'll, right here towards the ends, I'll slide this on. And then I wrap the hair around the bobby pin to kind of give me some control. And then this will become, this sort of becomes the centermost point of my flower. This is sort of that center, I believe it has a name, it's like a piston. Because of course I then Googled the anatomy of a flower to make sure I had all the parts, because that's how I roll. So I just roll this up, and then I'll use this pin to pin this into place. And I'll add another pin to the bottom. So I always use this as like my centermost piece, and then everything works around that, and that kind of hides everything for you. So my second piece, I'll take another section here, and then I like to go in and I'll start, and each braid you build off of from here on will get a little bit larger and larger. So we'll start here, and we'll do a quick sort of regular fishtail for your first one. So we'll take an outside strand from the right and move it to the center, and you'll work your fishtail down relatively quickly. When you're doing, when I did the big one where it's the whole updo, it was a lot, I was more focused on individual detail. But the smaller ones, you can get, the bigger the sections you take and the bigger the pieces, the more impact you get immediately. So I'll work this slowly down. And then once you get this down, you'll start to pull and pancake the fishtail apart, just to start to add and build some depth. And I like to have the outside, the outermost point, be the biggest, or pulled apart the most, because that's going to kind of give you some bulk inside, and it's also going to create those petals in bloom. So this will be the outermost side of it. So I'll focus most of my texturizing on this side, and then you'll start to just wrap this around. So we'll wrap her around here. And then I like to leave some of the tails, because I end up that, I push further back like underneath, and it starts to push these petals in forward. You are, I love that in real life you're just like you are on Instagram. You're my favorite. Holly, like honest to God. And you told me how to use Twitter this year.
I did.
So I'll sort of pin this into place. And then my next one will come from this side, and I would do, I'll move into a fishtail, but I'll do it like Dutch. So I'll do it inverted. So I'll take the two strands again, but instead of going over, I'm gonna go under. So I'll come from the outside. And these, but when you do the Dutch fishtail, it always takes a little bit longer for it to look like something, so don't freak out with this. I'll go through. And I'm going a little bit more, I'm going faster than I would normally, like, so that I can kind of show you the full effect, and using much like bigger sections when I flip it under. But it creates a different, when you pull apart like a regular, and then also pull apart a fishtail, the depth and the dimension is completely different. It has like a different feel to it. Like this, I feel like with the Dutch fishtails, I can make them a little bit more fuzzy and give them a little bit more texture just because it's already raised, it's already a little bit more three-dimensional. So when I go around here, like I like to kind of, I kind of rub my fingers together just so you get a little bit more of like a fuzziness to it. Because that's the thing, like with flowers, they're imperfect. Like, so you can see like this one's definitely a little bit more fuzzy. Come through. And then this one will come right underneath. And so as you layer the different techniques and the different textures, it starts to, you'll start to see it come together. Oh, I have them on my wrist. And then as you work, if you take a little bit of texture spray, you can start to add, like I'll go back in now because I want to see a little bit more of this. But that centermost point stays there for you. So if you wanted it to be really big, I would then go back in and keep alternating with like a regular 3-strand and a fishtail, but I always finish it off with a 3-strand Dutch braid, and I pull apart one side. So I'll take this section here, for example, and then we'll do, this one will be a much larger. So I'll take my 3-strand braid and I'll go underneath. Way too much caffeine to be doing this. You're doing great. Oh, thanks. The hair's like. So I'll braid this underneath, and with this final piece, like I will pull apart only one side, and sometimes this is where the hair tells me what it wants to do. Sometimes I have really great ideas, and the hair decides it doesn't want to do that anyway, and I have to like regroup. Especially when it's a real person, like my wigs and my mannequins will do whatever I want, but like real hair won't. So this one we'll bring around this way. So I'm gonna pull only the outermost side out, like as big as I can. And these will kind of end up being like your really dramatic, like weeping petals. Yay, thank you!
That's awesome.
Sorry. So that's always the one. That's always the braid I finish it with, because that's what sort of droops over by pulling apart the outside and gives you like that petal. And then again, you can go back in and sort of start to pull out some of your other ones if you want to add a little bit more dimension. It's just sort of all about the different textures and the layers for that.
Oh, I love it.